Football with friends is fun as hell. My name is Alex Dunlap. Oh man, am I pumped up to be here with you guys today on a Thursday, a big victory Thursday. Gosh, do we have a lot to get to today? So happy to see you guys here in the chat. I see Jay Ward. I got in the chat. I saw you guys taking bets on whether I was going to be 1 minute late or not. I said, Blake, start the show right now, man. These guys, we can't let these guys get the best of me. Rodolfo. So good to see you, my friend. He's asking, what does the NFL think about Worthy? Well, I don't know what the NFL consensus is on Xavier Worthy, but I certainly know that there are a few teams that there are. I can't even say a few teams. There are a few NFL scouts that I know that, at least prior to the season, before they go a little bit quiet on me, we're saying that he certainly was somebody that they were watching and monitoring as somebody who could be a possible first-round pick, and it'll depend on how he tests. I'm not sure he's had quite as big a season as some people had expected, but man, Worthy's an awesome player. He wouldn't go any later than day 2, I don't think. He's also asking about Jahdae Barron. Jahdae Barron's another kind of day 2 guy. Oh, dude, that's a big bit of news today. 6 Senior Bowlers get invites or 6 Texas Longhorns get invites to the Senior Bowl. Jahdae Barron, of course, being one of them. We'll talk about all that. Sandman 23, so good to see you. Blake Winfrey, of course. Money B is in the building, of course. Nathan, good to see you, my guy. He's asking about the Iowa State face masks. Jay Ward, so good to see you, my friend. Gringo Horns, Text Guy 2. Again, Cody Carpentier, just listening to the prediction show. I guess that's from a little bit earlier. When Money B says, win the Alex from the prediction show to make an appearance on Football with Friends. You know me. I'm not just from I'm here every day. You know this, Money B. Ryan Foster, great to see you, my friend. Lane Seawright, oh my gosh. Was that the official time? Somebody might have lost a bet. 3:30 and 59 seconds. Woo! Talk about a bad beat. I'll tell you guys what, man. You should have I took one. I took a little bit of a bad beat last night on Prize Picks, but it wasn't all bad thanks to one Mr. Keenan Womack that joined us yesterday. Check this out. I think, Blake, did I show you this? I would think I was just bragging about it. I'm not sure I showed you. Let's see. Prize Picks wants to. Okay, yes, you can allow that. Loading projections. We'll do some Prize Picks here after a while as well for tonight's awesome NFL game. But check this out. Past entries. Look at Keenan Womack with the less on IT Horton points, the more on Tyrese Hunter 3-pointers, the more on Derek Lively the second steals, and the less on Luka Doncic rebounds. Next thing you know, I have an extra $200 in my account over on Prize Picks. So thanks very much to Keenan for that. As far as last night, Cody on his 3 picks for the Cockamamie Wednesday night action. Rashad Amos, he got that one. Cole Snyder, this one, the Sia Bangura looks like missed on that one. So a little bit of a miss on that deal, but definitely makes up for it here with Keenan's awesome picks. We're going to see if we can keep the streak going tonight with Thursday Night Football. Just a bunch to get to, man. Sark had his availability today, so we'll talk about that on top of the Senior Bowl stuff. We'll finish up the offense. There's a couple things that I didn't get to yesterday that I wanted to sort of discuss today. Also, sort of parlay that into how I see the running back split going in this game. We have returning to the scene of the crime, returning to the scene of the 2021 crime. Blake, is that the name of the show on the title? I think that was snappy. That's a very click-worthy title. Returning to the scene of the crime. That's what Sark was saying today. He said maybe you can call it returning to the scene of the crime. I really liked that, so I will take credit for it as the title of the show. We'll have the Circa Millions lines. We'll talk about some of the betting trends, all that stuff. Sam Hayes asking, do you have a promo code for Prize Picks? Yes, it is Orange Bloods, and you can sign up with promo code Orange Bloods. You can get up to $100 deposit match, 100%. So that means if you deposit $100, they'll give you $300 in promo money. Now you can't just go and deposit that money and then cash out $200. You have to actually play with that $100 that they give you. But I mean, it's just as good as that's works for me. The other thing too is that I always say on Flex Fridays you get a $50 protected play. And so every Friday, if you just never wanted to risk your money, you could just play on Fridays and have a chance to win $1,250 on a 6-way entry. And if it doesn't hit, they just refund the money. And so, like I said, I'm not sure how they're making money on this. So, yep. Yeah, so he says they're running that on the front page of the site. So curious if you had a different deal. No, it's just like if they're doing that, then that's kind of what they're offering. If you use promo code Orange Bloods, though, it definitely helps us out, right? So that's kind of what we're going for there. Sorry, there's nothing. I think that's just kind of that's the best thing that they have to offer. So yeah, good to see all you guys today. How do we start? All right, so I guess we can talk about the Senior Bowl. So 6 Longhorns invited. Blake, can you pull up like the image that Texas Longhorns put out today? Off the top of my head, though, it's what Jalen. So Jalen Ford, of course, or Ford, Sweat, Murphy, Jade Barron, Christian Jones, and Alfred Collins, of all people. So take a look at those young men right there. Upstanding young gentlemen, possibly heading for the Senior Bowl. I think that let's just kind of go through all 6 of these guys and talk about what this means. All right, let's just start on the left, man. So Byron Murphy. What does this mean? He's clearly a junior, right? He's got a Senior Bowl invite. He is the only junior out of this group that was invited to the Senior Bowl. So that brings up another issue. And I know what you're all thinking. I know what every one of you is thinking. You're thinking, gosh, now can Alex still be right and be insufferable about Quinn Ewers getting to go to the Senior Bowl? And so maybe it looks like I could have possibly been wrong about that, because if they were to invite Quinn Ewers, he probably would have been part of this initial list of invites, considering the fact that they did invite another underclassman in Byron Murphy. I will say this: when Nagy and the rest of his staff do send out these invites, I know that they have contact with the teams. They let the teams know beforehand about the invites. They ask about things that could prevent players from coming, stuff like that. They talk to them about, hey, if this dude's injured, what are your trainers saying? Might he be ready in time for the beginning of February for the practices and for the game, stuff like that. They're in constant communication. I would think that for Quinn Ewers, with his situation being so up in the air as to whether he's going to return, whether he's going to be going pro, it's probably a spot where I would imagine that we know how fluid the Senior Bowl roster is, right? And through the course of these bowl games, dudes get hurt and they can't play in the game, or guys will get agents. Their agents will say, "Dude, you accepted an invite before we even met. You can't go to the Senior Bowl." It's like, "Well, I didn't know, man." He's like, "Well, no, we can't go do that." So they got to call the Senior Bowl and say, "Hey, we can't come." And at the beginning of every week at the national scouting weigh-in, which is something that, man, it's one of these things that they took away during COVID that they kind of never gave back. Those things that they kind of took away and never gave back. One of them was getting to go to the Senior Bowl weigh-ins, because you go in there and you can. I don't even know why I liked it that much. It's all you do is see guys walk across the stage and they're tidy whities and get their hands measured. It goes to show, maybe I'm kind of odd in the things that I like to go watch. But I used to like to go watch the weigh-ins, and I do know at the beginning of the weigh-ins, Nagy or oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the dude who came, Phil Savage. They would tell you, okay, this is the list of players who were invited. These are the ones who didn't show up due to injuries or other personal reasons, and they'll read off like 50 names, right? And then they'll say, these guys were the no-call, no-shows. And that's the naughty list. There's always like 6 or 7 of those dudes. And you can bet that those guys are going to get some red flags on their profile for doing that. But the main point is that there's all kinds of there's all kinds of movement with this Senior Bowl roster throughout the course of December and through the course of January. I don't think it's out of the question that Quinn Ewers could still get an invite if he does officially declare. I think a game like the Senior Bowl, certainly a game like the Shrine Bowl, which is now going to be played here in Texas, the practices at the Star in Frisco, that they would be idiots if not for no other reason than exposure and bringing some limelight to their game. Not to have a guy like Quinn Ewers, the quarterback from Texas, there at their game, and also they'd be foolish not to. If Quinn wanted to come, I think he would be a real get for either of these games. He'd be a guy that scouts would love to see, the analysts and fans would all love to see. So I don't think it's completely out. My dream of Quinn Ewers to the Senior Bowl is not completely dead, but I think the dream of Byron Murphy coming back to Texas now with this invite is probably completely dead. It just is what it is. I mean, like I said earlier, Nagy communicates with these guys. He's not going to send an invite to an underclassman that he hasn't gotten a little bit of insight from the team regarding about whether or not it looks like he's probably going to be leaving. And look, that's just a guess, because we're all in uncharted waters here as far as these underclassmen and as far as the invite process for them. Even Jim Nagy on Good Morning Football the other day was talking about, it's like, man, we don't know exactly how some of these processes are going to go. We're, this kind of just we sort of knew that this could be happening and we made plans for what might occur. But man, when they let us know, this was just, this was something we're having to adapt to on the fly. So my guess, though, is that there's no way that they would have invited Byron Murphy if they didn't think that he was certainly leaving. Jalen Ford, I can't say I'm surprised to see Jalen Ford on there. He hasn't been as good this year as he was last year, but I've thought the whole time that certainly he'd be an excellent candidate to go to the Senior Bowl. Here's the dude: 6 of these guys. What a team, man! What a team Texas is, and we're gonna get into this more whenever we talk about returning to the scene of the 2021 crime, right? What Iowa State was then, what Texas was then, versus what these teams are now. Jahdae Barron, there was never a question he was going to be a Senior Bowl invite. Jim Nagy came on this very show, and he told us, man, like, it didn't take much to know about Jahdae Barron, man. I mean, Jim Nagy comes on the show and says, well, yeah, that's the best nickel corner in the country, if not the best, one of the best, right? Of course, he was always going to get the invite. T'Vondre Sweat, they said last year that they would have rather had T'Vondre Sweat at that game than Keandre Coburn. They were waiting to see if Sweat was going to come out. Keandre Coburn, of course, goes to the believe Keandre went to the Shrine Bowl last year, right? Yeah, he went to the Shrine Bowl. So T'Vondre Sweat was never a question. And man, he looks big and beastly in that photo with that. But Blake, does he have a beard in that photo? I think he's got a beard in that photo.
God. Yeah, he definitely looks like he has a beard in that photo.
He looks like a mountain man or something, dude. He's a scary, scary SOB. The guy next to him, Alfred Collins. I mean, look, I don't know, man. I've said from the beginning, I think that Alfred Collins probably is a candidate to maybe think about returning. Alfred Collins hasn't really done too much this season. He's been, I think that the reason he hasn't played as much lately is just because he's probably still a little bit banged up from whatever he got, 2 games ago whenever he had to leave the game early. So I'll chalk it up to that, but I'm not going to chalk up his lack of effectiveness this season to that. Like he's not been good. So kind of interesting to see, but again, go back to what Jim Nagy said in our preseason conversations, and it was so obvious. He was the one who kept saying, "Oh God, he's so pretty. He's so pretty," and all the chat was like, "Pretty? What's this guy saying?" I'm like, "Hey, you guys don't know how scouts talk. This is the kind of thing that we hear from them all the time, and they say dudes look pretty or whatever, sexy and stuff. You say, oh, it's a little bit weird, but it's kind of how they talk. He says the long arms, the 83-inch wingspan and stuff. Scouts have obviously wanted to see him. He's a senior. They want to see him. So without my harebrained or cockamamie ideas that he should be coming back, I still think it's a good idea. I think they should try and convince him to. I think it'd be good for Texas to get Alfred Collins back. I think it'd be good for Alfred Collins. But it could be a situation where he might say, he's like, well, I haven't done that well this season. And who knows what'll happen next season, so might as well strike while the iron's hot. I mean, they're the ones who invited me. They invited me.
Is more tape going to help or hurt him? I'm not sure. If he has another season like this, then I think that would hurt him.
Christian Jones. I mean, he's just Christian Jones has been Christian Jones this year, except games where he wasn't Christian Jones, like last week. And Texas can't have another week like that, really out of him. If they did, I wrote in my column today, man. If Christian Jones looks like that to start this next game, they ought to just get him out and get Cam Williams in and just say, like, dude, until you're healthy, let's put the old kibosh on this and let's make sure that you are okay. Cody saying in the chat, note to the chat, players have declined before and held the invite for the following season, so there's still a chance for Alfred. Is that true? That's I can't believe like that's something that I hadn't thought about, Cody, that has happened before. Let's see. Darwin Limit says Alfred Collins will flash if his knee's okay. Well, that's all he does is flash. So maybe in a spot like the Senior Bowl, it's fine. But, dude, one thing about the Senior Bowl, do you know what they do every single year is they not only bring in some of the best seniors at the offensive line positions, but they find these dudes from North Dakota State and stuff like the Cody Mox of the world or I'm trying to like the Zion Johnsons or there's the Dalton Reisners. There's a million of these guys that they bring in that are from, sometimes like smaller schools and stuff like that are awesome offensive linemen. And the Senior Bowl is a good week to be a wide receiver. It's not a really that good a week to be an interior defensive lineman against these offensive line guys that they bring in. They truly, really are good. They bring in big, beastly, nasty guys. If you look over the list of, the players that have been there over the course of the last few years, man, it's a pretty nasty list of offensive linemen, and they're just getting better and better. Now they can bring in underclassmen. It's gonna be a tough spot. Cody saying that Keaton Slovis oh gosh. Keaton, I hope he's not getting it. I don't want to see a Keaton Slovis Senior Bowl. Bo Nix would be nice. I wonder what Blake, what is it? Does this tell you anything at all? So my biggest takeaway from the Senior Bowl thing is one, Byron Murphy's leaving. So just kiss it goodbye. He's gone. There's really no maybe to it anymore, I don't think. And then the other thing is, I don't know what this makes of Quinn. Of course, I would have been just shocked and over the moon and insufferable if Quinn Ewers would have been on that photo with the invite. Now that he's not, I don't. My kind of working theory right now is that the Senior Bowl is probably communicated with them and they've said like he doesn't really know what he's doing yet. That would vibe with the case.
I think that's the case. I think they're all currently playing under the assumption that he's going to return to Texas until.
Is that now the assumption?
I think that's the assumption.
He's like number 45 on the Athletics big board right now.
I don't know, Alex, for sure. But the reports over the last week have kind of said no, it's not decided, but returning is definitely in play. I don't think anything's been decided for sure.
Yeah.
On the Quinn front, like I think these last few games, like what Texas ends up doing, do they win the Big 12? Do they win the Cotton Bowl? Do they go to the playoff? Like, I think all these things kind of matter for where Quinn's stock ends up at the end of the season and whether it's worth it for him to leave or come back.
My only and that all makes perfect sense. Those are all good points. My only issue with this whole thing as it pertains to Quinn is in the All-Star games is this. If he does leave and he does not take advantage of he's in the absolute nut spot, right? To be a quarterback to go to an all-star game in the first year that underclassmen are allowed. And it's for a few reasons. One, in theory, either of them would love to have him. Not just because he's good, but also because he would bring notoriety and bring attention to the game. And they do care about that, right? It would bring fans to the city of Mobile or the city of Frisco, right? It just would. It's a big deal for them to these cities are such giant partners of the. I mean, the Senior Bowl is an entity that is, it's it's a year-round operation that makes its whole product is just 1 week of just all of this activity that comes into Mobile and stuff, and Mobile loves it, even though it's just 1 week. It's probably one of the biggest economic boom. It's a bigger economic boom than even Mardi Gras. And believe it or not, people don't realize it. Mardi Gras was invented in Mobile.
Really?
Can you believe that? But it's like it's a giant deal, and so anything that brings extra eyeballs to it, anything that especially brings extra tourism, like that's a big deal. Okay. And also he's good. And also scouts want to see him. Right. And fans and analysts and everybody would love to see him. The other thing though, is from Quinn's side of the coin here. He's in the absolute, it's the perfect spot. He's not Caleb Williams, who people say is going to go first. Caleb Williams is not going to go to the Senior Bowl or Shrine Bowl, right? They're just not. They're not going to do that. The guys who tend to go are the guys that people have a few question marks regarding, and the guys who need to go and they need to show their wares in front of the NFL scouts, the NFL decision makers, the GMs, the coaches. Every single GM and head coach is there, except the ones that are playing in the NFC, AFC championship games. They're all there, but their staffs are there. They're all there. Everybody's there, and you get to meet them all. And you go there, and you show yourself off, and you go from somebody who's projected as a day 2 pick, number 50 overall, something like that. Which for Quinn, I don't think is bad, but you can move up to pick like 6, pick 8 in the draft. I know it's a deep quarterback draft this year, so maybe for Quinn that's like moving up to top 15 or something like that. But what a move that would be. And you could do that just by going and having good practices. And Quinn is awesome at practice. If nothing else, he's awesome at practice. He throws the most beautiful ball you've ever seen versus air. It really, it's a sight to behold. I wish everybody could go see it. It's the kind of thing you could put on loop in your brain, and when you're going to sleep at night, just like it gives you sweet dreams to even think about this thing. The world's like, oh my God, look at that. So, if he does decide after all this that he's going to go pro, it would be insanity for him not to pursue a spot in one of these All-Star games.
Oh yeah, that's a key
pure insanity.
Yes.
Yep. Pure insanity. Okay. Sandman saying that I go to bed every night dreaming about Quinn's balls. Come on, I'm talking about the spin on the ball. I mean, Sandman 23 is always in here causing trouble. All right. Let's see. He's saying, hold on. Is that mine from Text Guy 2? Tell me what you know. The statesman says UT in the Big 12 championship, if they beat ISU. Yeah, I think they have to be, right? Isn't that how it goes?
I think so. Yeah.
Because that would mean, oh gosh, that would mean the State has so and all the rest of it. No, all the rest of it. Blah blah. I don't know.
There's so many teams at 2 losses. That's the only reason why.
Dude, that's a better question for Chad Hastings. That's the guy who can tell you. He's like, well, if KSU loses to ISU because they still have ISU to go, and then OU still has to play this, and I don't know about that.
All I know is, as of this moment, there's still a chance that there's an 8-way tie for first place in the Big 12.
So cockamamie. Oh God, dude, we got Jamari Lee, 1999 super chat. Thank you, brother. I didn't know Jamari Lee was rich. Dang, man. We got the richest bunch of friends around, Blake. We got to start hitting some of these dudes up for some cash. My God. Super chat 99. Alex, best debate I've seen on Orange Bloods. We need more catch. There you go, from earlier on this show. Okay. Well, thank you. It's just, man, it's just me. That's just us talking football. We're just there having fun. We see things a little bit differently. I don't see the 3-3-5 as some sort of binary. Like one team's a 3-3-5 and one team's not. That just doesn't make. It's like, to me, it's like saying like Texas defense struggles against teams that run zone concepts in their blocking. It's just like, well, most teams run it, even if they don't. If they're not much of a zone team, they still run some zone. It's 50-50 or whatever is the mix. I mean, these people are in sub packages 60% of the time now. Okay, and he says also, if Sweat continues to raise his stock, I think he could skip Senior Bowl. Oh, Also at Cody, the Cousins era is over in Minnesota. Dobbs is the future. Well, I'll say this. Okay, so one, I think that Sweat would be making a mistake to skip the Senior Bowl. The Senior Bowl's wanted him for a long time. I think he's one of these guys that with a great Senior Bowl, which he would have. I'm beginning to think T'Vondre Sweat's a first round pick, regardless of Senior Bowl or not. Now I haven't looked at any mock drafts recently that would verify that for me. But how can he not be? He's beginning to now take over football games, show up in the big ones. Everybody's talking about him as part of the best interior defensive line in the country. Those are the players that get picked in the first round, especially when they're 365 and they move like him. And they're going to put it on the tape and they're just going to see it. So I think he could actually be one of these guys that I've revised my stance to where I do think now he could be a player that actually has a first round grade, like a guy who's going to go top 17, top 18 or something like that. And we've seen with those guys, when they do go to the Senior Bowl, Ziggy Ansah, Aaron Donald. Oh gosh, there've been so many. It's just I've been to 13 of them now. There's just so many. I know the type, and this is the kind of thing where you can move up from being picked to 18 or 20 at the tail end of the first round grade guys to being like a top 6 pick, top 7 pick, and that could be a big deal for him. Somebody's gonna say, "Look, we want him." We're not going to let anybody not let us have T'Vondre Sweat. As far as Dobbs, I mean, I know you asked Cody. I'll say this about Josh Dobbs, the pastor or not. We've seen guys kind of go big a little bit and turn back into pumpkins a whole lot. I would say before you go write this guy any big checks, man, you got to make sure it's not a Ryan Fitzpatrick or a Taylor Heineke or one of these things where they come in, they look really good, and they turn out to be somebody that the clock strikes midnight and they turn back into the pumpkin. And I worry about that with Dobbs because we kind of saw him turn back into a pumpkin in Arizona earlier this year. So
it's entertaining though.
And here's the thing. I also think that Kevin O'Connell's a G, man. He's so good that he's able to what he's able to do with that offense, what he's able to get out of them with the quarterback play these last couple of weeks. Oh gosh, I think Tom G has a super chat. Thank you so much, Jamar Lee. I appreciate you, brother. Tom G with the super chat. Tom G, thank you so much. Another very, very rich man. Let's see. 20 US. Woo, $20. Tom G. Thank you, sir. Alex, both lines for ISU are rated very poor. If winning the trenches really matters, do you think they can really keep it close? Well, Tom G, I have good news for you. Texas is returning to the scene of the crime from 2021, and I've gone over all the numbers. Snout to tail, stem to stern. What is it? What is it? What is it on a boat? Is that stem to stern? There's port and there's something else. I had to take that boat or starboard. Starboard and port. Starboard to port. I've got all the numbers on this. And look, man, I've pulled up right now here on the other side of my screen that I was just watching Iowa State, Kansas State. People talk about that one Iowa State offensive lineman that was badmouthed in Texas and all this stuff, saying he's kind of good. If he is, I didn't see any. I don't think that offensive line is any good for Iowa State. I think that defensive line is kind of puny and small. I think their linebackers are slow. I worry about the coverage, but this is such a different Texas team this year than it was when they went to Jack Trice Stadium in 2021. Literally, everything has changed. And I think that Tom G is right. It's about time that we start considering, how can Texas win this game? Stop considering how can Texas win this game and start considering how can Texas dominate this game in a way that they leave no doubt, in a way, like we say, go into their house, pee on the rug, become the liquor smurf, look them in the eye, eat their best snacks right in front of them. We're going to talk about how, we're going to talk about why, and why it's starting to make sense to me now that I put the numbers together. Next.
Thing that he said that kind of blew my mind was that he said, when I got here, it was Iowa and it was Texas. Though he mentioned two teams. It's like, these are the teams. I say this all the time about the other schools who are doing the horns down, not playing us. I'm like, stop being obsessed with us, man. And so, yeah, Iowa State offensive lineman saying that he got there and they told him Iowa and Texas, those are the two big games. I'm like, man, and maybe this is why we struggled there so often, but I'm like, we don't think about you ever, Iowa State, okay? We started thinking about you 4 days ago, and that was it.
And that's the thing, Chance, you know this. That's what Texas has to match. They've got to take that feeling away. We've seen some Texas teams that can do it pretty easily. You were on some teams that took pride in doing that, but it does. Jason's right. It is a focus thing. The idea that that's how he started his season. Got to beat the Hawkeyes, and we got to beat Texas. And last year it did end a 3-game, losing streak for Texas. So they are going to be supremely focused. I hope Bo is right. I'm with Bo. I love the short little answers on social media. Let's hope, Chance, that it is a laser-guided reaction from Texas, and they do go in with this attitude of, all right, dude, you asked for it. Here it comes.
Well, first, I want to agree with what Jason said, because I was going to get to the same point. That was the thing that jumped out at me. And you guys have heard me say this all the time, that when we used to watch film, Mac would pound it into our heads. This team is not the team you're going to see on Saturday. It was a recurring theme every film session for 5 years, because Texas is going to get your big shot. And sometimes I think people don't realize it, but to hear a guy at Iowa State, like, what rivalry have we had with ever? Like, who is Iowa State besides the Cyclones with a cow pasture with a field in the middle of it? Like, it's dumb. We don't think about them. But you hear it from his words to say it's Iowa and Texas. I mean, Iowa State's a big game. So that just puts to gravity on it. When I look at this, I think you have to come in that bullet board material. What I told you is that there's a couple of guys that affects, and that's the guys he's going with one-on-one, because he essentially called them out and said, I'm not scared of you. I'm going to whoop your ass. You're coming here to play in the dark, and I guess we're going to have a pillow fight at night. Like, that's calling them out. The rest of the team, they need to come in. Look, I don't know how you could be. I don't care what anybody says. The only focus that they need to have right now is the goal in mind. And this is just a team in the way of their goal. And if getting to that goal of a playoff berth or an opportunity for it, if that is in fact the goal, and you're this damn close, you're 9-1 at this point, you've run through the tough part of your schedule, and you've got these 2 games to finish out. If you can't be focused, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs anyway. I mean, this is understanding your goal and knowing we're right there. You should be able to smell it at this point. You're close enough. Be focused and go in and win in a dominant fashion, by the way.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Oh my gosh, we're indeed having some fun here on Football with Friends, and I feel like I'm on the same wavelength as Chance Mock. I woke up today thinking I'm tired of all this talk about how scary Iowa State is. I'm tired of this stuff. I'm tired of these guys mouthing off. I'm just tired of it, man. It's like I'm not even here in the capacity of being a fan like some of you guys. I'm just here to analyze these teams, right? And try and do my best to explain what I'm seeing and to create content around the football teams, right? But even me, I'm just like, what? Like, we got this Iowa State guy saying that they're talking about the record versus Texas, which apparently wasn't even right. You got him saying like they've got all these 5 stars. They need to get their egos checked. All this stuff like this, man. It's time we had to talk about going in there and kicking Iowa State's butt, going in there and putting them in the dirt. Because here's the thing: Texas is returning to the scene of the crime. Blake, what was the score of the game back in 2021? Was it 30-7? At Jack Trice Stadium,
was it
in that creepy little cow pasture, like Chance Mock so gently put it?
30-7.
It's brutal. Okay, so let's talk about that game, because Sark said it today. He said, because it was Bobby Burton, right, who asked him, who asked just, I mean, he couldn't have asked a more ham-fisted question, but it was, he just said, like, look, it was a beatdown last time you went there, all this stuff. And he's talking about how bad it was. And Sark's like, okay, so what's the question? And he's like, well, what do you think? Has the culture changed since then? I'll get back to that in a second. What is Cody saying about
time too? Oh my God.
What is Cody saying about this stuff? 17-5 in Texas career versus unranked teams. Who's he talking about? Is this more ISU propaganda? Because I'm tired of it. I don't think it is. Cody wouldn't do that. 17-5 in Texas career versus unranked teams. 0-2 in overtime against them. Is this Sark he's saying? Sarkeesian stats. Okay. 4-0 in night games in 2023. 3-0 in road games. Oh, so I like those stats.
They're winning this year. Also,
I even went today to look at some of the Iowa State home night splits and stuff. They've lost plenty of games there at night. It's not like it's a total blackout type of play.
It's not in the dark, as he said. Like, they have lights.
Come on, are you kidding me? They're talking about it like it's the shoe at night. Are you kidding me? This is Iowa State. Let's talk about the last time that these two teams met. 2021, 30-7. Okay, in that game versus Iowa State in 2021, Texas missed 18 tackles. Does this feel like a Texas team this year to you that misses 18 tackles in a game? 18 tackles. I mean, we're not that far removed, Blake, from Texas being a team that versus Oklahoma State in one of those games. And do you remember the Jalen Warren game? Whenever they missed 31 tackles. We're not that far removed from that Texas team. I want to illustrate how far this Texas team has come. 18 missed tackles. Now, they did have one horrible missed tackles game this season, and that was Oklahoma. And that was the game where they had like 3 missed tackles on one dang play. They should have won the game, if not for the Stoops wide open over the middle. The safeties were playing a different coverage in the corners. The Terrence Brooks deep down the left sideline. The Jaron Thompson can't communicate with David Benda. All happening at once, right? It wasn't even Sark's play clock stuff, time management. It was just it was that. It was terrible. It was, execution, tackling, everything. So that game, Texas missed 20 tackles. That is the game that you can look at and say that game was terrible. Like on defense, that was no good, very bad, whatever game. Other than that, does this feel like a team that's missed that many? Because it hasn't on average this season. So 18 missed tackles in 2021 versus Iowa State. This team averages this season 9.3 missed tackles per game. So it basically it's season average this year in a season where actually Texas has played probably better opponent. I'd have to go back and look and see who the out of conference opponent was in 2021. I don't think it was as good as Alabama. I don't remember it being as good as Alabama. And so we're talking about this. Was
that Arkansas?
It was. Yeah. So it was Arkansas, and that was a brutally horrible game. But look, man, it's like
that's an understatement.
But okay, all right, so missed tackles alone. Okay, missed tackles are backbreakers. 18 in that game. They're averaging 9.3 per game this season. Okay, 3 coverage burns in that game. All right, now coverage is probably the area of the Texas defense that you feel the most shaky about, right? I know it has to be. You don't feel shaky about the linebacker play. You got Jalen Ford with a Senior Bowl invite. You got Anthony Hill as one of the best snaps per production players on the whole entire team. Freshman phenom, makes every midseason freshman All-American list. He's going to be. Is there a end of season freshman All-American list? I'm sure he'll be on it if there is. I mean, he's sick, man. He's a sick player. He's playing 85% of snaps now. He's awesome. Okay. The one thing Jahdae Barron's awesome. The one thing that you can worry about is the play of the corners and the interaction with the safeties and stuff like that. Even though Michael Tapp has come along and shown he's Johnny on the spot. Jaron Thompson's good. Derek Williams is a very good depth piece. Maybe Ryan Watson, Terrence Brooks. That was actually a little bit telling What Cody pointed out to me when we were texting back and forth. Can you believe what nerds me and Cody are? We're texting back and forth about what this means about the Longhorns that are invited to the Senior. But he said, like, the one thing I was thinking is no Ryan Watts.
Mm-hmm.
That was an interesting omission, and it makes sense because Jim Nagy thinks Ryan Watts could be a safety. Maybe that's where he fits best in the National Football League, and maybe that's what scouts think. And to not get that initial invite, I'm sure he'll get a Shrine Bowl invite. But you could think about, Texas has been burned a few times. They've had some pass interference penalties. I count those as burns in the deep dig. But whenever you look at coverage burns, so 3 coverage burns in that Iowa State 2021 game. This season, on the season, Texas is averaging 1.7 coverage burns per game. So basically half. Just like the missed tackles. It's half. Okay. Blown contains. All right. Texas in that game versus Iowa State in 2021 had 2 blown contains. That's one thing this season that they have been immaculate with. They do not blow outside contain, and that is thanks to Barron Sorrell. It's thanks to Ethan Burke. It's thanks to a large degree to Jahdae Barron. Like these guys, you don't break contain on Texas. If you're the quarterback, if you're a runner on a sweep or something, like people, they don't get outside of you often, right? So two blown contains in that game. This season, Texas is averaging only 0.7 blown contains per game. So again, less than half, right? So that's just from a pure defensive perspective. As far as what the numbers tell us from the relatively advanced stats, right? I mean, whatever. If you just kind of look at them, you sort them. There's a big difference in those. Jamari Lee has a question, and I'll get to that before I get to the rest of this breakdown. Let's see, Jamari Lee, he's so very rich. $4.99 for super chat. Thank you, my rich friend. Jared Hudford did the worst thing he can do for this game. I think we see the Texas team we saw against Alabama will win by 35. Well, they didn't win by 35 versus Alabama, but that's the thing. This is an Alabama, and we're going to talk about that soon. It's not Alabama. It's like, I'm sick of this.
Real quick, Alex, I think it's funny that he was bagging on all these 5 stars at Texas. Well, who's not a 5-star? Devondre Sweat, Byron Murphy.
Yeah,
those are the guys he's dealing with. They ain't 5 stars.
Yeah, I mean, they're not 5 stars. They're not 5 stars. Yeah, man, he did the wrong thing. I think the right thing to do is to like the show, right? Just click like. If you can like the show, subscribe to the channel. It's free. You guys can like it. You can subscribe. It's free to do. It helps us out immensely. We really, really appreciate it. We're trying to get to 18,000 subscribers. It's going to help us with our reach and with drawing in new members of the friends and family here in the FWF fam. Oh, and the hats, the merch. You can help us out also if you're interested in a snazzy looking new hat. There is is that promo still on, Blake? The Holiday Z10 or something like that. I think it's through the 16th.
I think it is.
You can get 10% off. I know it's not giant, but every bit helps these days. Yeah, so you can get those hats in different colors. There's also different kinds of hats. There's T-shirts. There's an iPhone case that I need to buy, right? Yeah, I'm going to buy that iPhone case. Beer, pint glasses, whatever you want. We got it all. It's the FWF merch store. Check it out. Oh, yeah, and then also the theme of the day. We didn't discuss. I just came in hot today, Blake. We're not going to have any commenters coming in saying Alex yaps too much before he starts. Today we just came in. Never go cheap on. Do you have anything that you never go cheap on, Blake? Because we don't ever get back. We don't ever get back to the theme. It's like we end the show and we never get to talk about it. The one thing that people always say for this is sushi.
Fish is a good one. Any sort of fish, I'm not a Long John Silver's kind of guy.
Do you know what? Oh, this is a good one. He's going for the corner. So, what's up, brother? He's saying never go cheap on toilet paper. That's a good one.
Yes.
Man. Unless you're just providing it for other people, like in an Airbnb scenario or something. I think I would go cheap for them, but not for me.
But not single ply. We'll give them something to work with.
You can really cut down on your usage of that stuff by buying one of those new bidets, man. Those little tushy bidets. I got them in every toilet in the whole house, man.
That's another good one for Money B mattress.
Mattress. That's a good one. Yeah. But do you know what the most important one is? Do you know the most important? Well, Nathan's saying wet wipes, but see, you can't do that wet wipe stuff if you live out in the country, man. That stuff will mess up your septic. I think it will, won't it? I've always been told that.
There are some that don't. I
think they all kind of do, Blake. If you have these country septics, I'm not sure it's a good idea, man. And Blake May Blake May is too sharp. He got to it before I did, and it's not just truck. It's just tires. Tires. Just don't, like, man, you're taking your life into your own hands. Nathan's saying they have disposable ones. What are you going to do? Use it and throw it in the trash next to you or something? Golly, Nathan.
Speaking of tires, I'm supposed to get my truck back today. It's been being worked on for hail damage for the last 3 weeks.
Really?
If I have to leave for 2 minutes, that's why.
So it only takes 2 minutes to get your truck back?
They came and picked it up, took it to the place. They're dropping it back off. Pretty cool insurance company thing.
I'm having after this. I gotta go drop my side by side off up at the Power Sports Play. Dude, I just got done having to pay $289 for an ATV tire. Can you believe that?
For a single one?
One single one, $289, man. They couldn't buy an aftermarket one. They had to buy an OEM. It's so screwed up. Okay. Jamari Lee saying you can throw the disposable in the toilets. Hey, hook them 24/7 is right here. No wipes in the pipes. Just keep it nice and simple. All right. So back to this, man. Back to me being angry about this. Okay, so let's just look at this. So we talked about the defensive trends, right? 9.3 missed tackles per game this year versus 18 missed tackles versus the Iowa State returning to the scene of the crime 2021 game. Okay. 1.7 cover. And look, that 9.3 missed tackles per game, it's not that's the mean. If I were to take the median, it'd be much, much less than that because it's completely thrown off and buoyed by that miserable 20 missed tackle performance versus OU, a completely uncharacteristic one, right? That would be something like that. We're talking a median, something like 6.5 missed tackles a game.
This 30-7 box score that I'm looking at, Alex, might be the worst one I can remember from a Texas.
We're gonna talk about all of it. Okay, so because Texas is returning to the scene of the crime, as Sark said today. I love it. He said he says you can call it returning to the scene of the crime. Whenever he was asking whenever he was answering Bobby Burton's non-question, Bobby Burton just finally had to say, no, what's different about the culture of this team than it was? I'm just like, well, dude, it isn't about culture. It's just everything, and that's what we're talking about here on Football with Friends. Okay, so. Let's just so we're talking about the defense. Let's talk about the defensive lineup in that game. Okay, on one edge you have Ovi Agwofu, who played 486 snaps that season, 5.93% of the team's production over the course of the season, and had 9.82 snaps per disruption caused. Okay, or snaps per production caused. Okay. Alfred Collins actually was the guy who played the most snaps in that game at one of the interior tackles in the Iowa State game. I went and sorted just the snap leaders from the defensive participation list for that game. Alfred Collins played the most snaps, and Byron Murphy played the most snaps in that game. So two guys who played, right? And Byron Murphy, if you remember, in 2021 was actually really good, right? He was really good. He had the down year in 2022, and he's really good again in 2023. So Alfred Collins that year, 317 total snaps. He had only a 3.71% market share. So even back then, he wasn't doing anything. 10.23 snaps per production caused. So right around where he is now, okay? Byron Murphy, 276 snaps only that season, but 5.87 snaps per production caused. So right about where he is this year. Listen to this one. The other edge who played for 498 snaps that season, Ray Thornton, he accounted for 1.14% of the team's productivity on defense, and he generated production once every 52.42 snaps. Over 498 snaps, 52.52 snaps went by before that guy could ever generate production. That's literally 10 times less often than Tavondre Sweat is doing it right now. It's 5 times less often than the guy who's playing his position right now, Ethan Burke, is doing right now. If you take the average of all those guys, well, here we'll get to that. Let's go through the rest of this lineup. Okay. In that game, the two linebackers that played the most were at the will. It was a 1 year away from his final season. Or was it 2 years away? Was DeMarvion Overshown in this last draft?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So 2021 would have been his second to last season.
Mhm.
So Overshown played 493 snaps that season. He generated production once every 8.22 snaps. Luke Brockermeyer played all the snaps in this game. 480 on the season, generated production at a little bit better than I would have thought. 10.11 snaps per production cost for Luke Brockermeyer that year. Okay, let's talk about the DBs. They weren't terrible. Deshaun Jameson was part of that group. He played 631 snaps during that 2021 season at Texas. Generated production once every 10.88 snaps. Josh Thompson was a 442 snap participant, generated production once every 11.14 snaps. Those are your outside corners in that game. Your safeties, though, BJ Foster. He plays, I know you remember the career arc of BJ Foster, right?
Now, is this the game where, or was that TCU where he kicked the pylon? Oh,
I don't know. That guy kicked it. I mean, as far as I'm concerned,
he might have kicked a lot of pylons.
That guy just kicked the bucket and went off to play for with the Sam Houston State Bearcats. I think that's their name. So 618 snaps that season, generated production once every 12.36 snaps. Not great. Brennan Schooler was the other safety that played that game. 367 snaps he played, 11.52 snaps per production caused. And generally, you would have had Anthony Cook, who was actually a pretty good nickel that year. But for some reason, he only played 20% of snaps in that ISU game. I guess he might have gotten hurt because Darian Dunn. Do you remember Darian Dunn?
Oh, Darian Dunn.
He played nickel in that game. 302 snaps he played that season. He generated production once every 10.32 snaps. Okay, so let's just look at this. So the defensive line in that game, the average snaps per production caused was 19.59 snaps per production caused. Okay, that's obviously terrible. And that's obviously brought way down by Ray Thornton basically being the least effective player that Texas has had since I've done the deep dig, right? One of them at least. For the linebackers, the average was once every 9.17 snaps. For the DBs, the average was once every 11.24 snaps. And across the entire defense, that was once every 13.9 snaps. Okay, those were the season-long snaps per production caused of the guys that played the majority of snaps in that game as far as the starting defense. Let's look at today's starting defense, okay? In 2023, returning to the scene of the crime, Ethan Burke gets production once every 7.83 snaps. Byron Murphy now gets production once every 6.2 snaps. Tavondre Sweat gets production now once every 5.3 snaps. Barron Sorrell gets production once every 10.24 snaps. That's compared to 52.42, 5.87, 10.23, and 9.82, an average of 19.59 as far as the front. This is an average of 7.39 snaps per production caused. 19.59 versus 7.39 as far as the defensive front. It's absurd. It's a complete. It's worlds apart. It's like there's no way to compare them.
Looking back on it, it's so easy to see how that team lost 6 in a row. That defense was. Line. They weren't even the biggest problem a lot of the time, but jeez.
The linebackers, Jalen Ford and Anthony Hill, are generating production respectively. Ford once every 8.41 snaps, Anthony Hill once every 6.15 snaps, an average of once every 7.28 snaps. That is going up against the average of the linebackers Brockermeyer and Overshown every 9.17. So we're talking 7.28 versus 9.17. Again, it's not the worlds of difference, but it's a gigantic difference. It's like the day I explained. Remember, I explained how Jalen Ford was at like once every 8 snaps or something like that, and how big a difference it is between 8 and 6. If he'd been at 6 over the course of the season, he would have had like 7 more sacks. You know, it would have been monumental how much more effective that he would have been. And we're talking about a 2 snaps per production across that group. Okay, and even in the group where we can see them, we can squint and say, oh gosh, a little bit worried about these guys. Ryan Watts generates production once every 10.42 snaps. Terrence Brooks generates production once every 15.54 snaps. Jaron Thompson generates production once every 12.2 snaps. Michael Taft generates production, surprisingly, once every 7.76 snaps. Jahdae Barron generates production once every 8.49 snaps. So that's an average across that position group of 10.88, the one we're worried most about in this spot. That is different and better than the position group of the corners and the nickel in the 2021 game, 11.24 snaps over the course of the season versus 10.88. So close, but still better. It's better at every level, significantly better across the front, significantly better with the linebackers, marginally better as far as the production being caused on an efficiency basis by the corners, the DBs, the safeties, right? Across the entire defense, you have 13.9 snaps per production across the entire defense that played against 2021 Iowa State and lost 30-7. 13.9. The average across this entire defense, 8.96 snaps per production caused. It's a chasm. It's a completely different defense. It's just like to think about 2021 and to think that there's any way to compare this team with that team. Sark says the culture is different. Like all this, and I say yada yada. Who cares? Like culture, whatever. Like look at these players. Look at this. Look at these guys. It's just so much. It's a world of difference. It's like we're talking about eking out a win against these idiots. Are you kidding me? Talk about this. How about this? On offense as a whole, of course, Bijan was the running back. So that's one feather in the cap. I mean, Bijan's the running back. But Bijan in this game, it wasn't like he was terrible. Bijan, you have the stats pulled up, but I have him. He went 18 for 90 as far as running the ball. Unfortunately, he was the team leader in receiving yards as well. He had 36 receiving yards in the game, and he led the whole team. The core rotation of receivers in this one.
But Alex, he fumbled twice in that game. Okay. Bijan did. So it's like,
is that going to happen? Like, I mean, come on.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it just adds to everything that was the disaster of that game. Like,
yeah, I'd forgotten that. Okay, but regardless. Let's just wait till you hear this core of wide receivers and tell me if you even remember. Okay, so it's Xavier Worthy, who was a freshman at the time. Big plays, fine, you got your guy. Other than that, dude, it was a steady diet of Marcus Washington and Kelvontae Dixon. Do you even remember Kelvontae Dixon? I had to go back and look up.
He's related to Keontae Ingram, right?
What was it? I don't know. It was Alvonte Woodard something? It's like, come on, these guys. Like, it's so the quarterback in that game was Hudson Card, right? That he was the QB. I think that was a game where Casey Thompson got hurt because Hudson Card played 89% of snaps or something like this, right? The tight end, we're comparing him to Jatavion Sanders. I don't think Cade Brewer stinks or anything, but how are we going to compare Cade Brewer to JT Sanders, right? And then on the other side and then for Iowa State, this is without even getting into Iowa State, but just think about Iowa State. Think about who that team was then versus who it is now. All you hear him now is saying, gosh, this young team, everybody's so young. We only have a few of these seniors. Rocco is he's getting better, but he's not too athletic. One of our most seasoned players is, Jeremiah Cooper, and he didn't even play in the spring, and he's only a sophomore, but he's played more than most of the guys on our team. And but the 2021 scene of the crime, Brock Purdy's the quarterback. I mean, I know he was Mr. Irrelevant in the draft. He wasn't considered a major prospect or anything. He was a good college player, and now I don't need to tell you what he's doing now with the 49ers. He's a starting quarterback for one of the best teams in the whole NFL. And he's kind of to thank for some of it. Like that was the quarterback. You're talking about that guy versus Rocco Becht. They had Breece Hall. They still had Breece Hall. There were some people
that was great in this game
that year that he was the better runner in the Big 12 than even Bijan Robinson. Breece Hall is doing amazing things in the National Football League. He looks like he's as good as Bijan at this point. They had Xavier Hutchinson. They had Charlie Kohler. They had Will McDonald. They had first round picks on there's none of that this year. There's TJ Tampa.
Don't skip over Tariq Milton, Alex.
No, well, Tariq Milton, of course, in that game. In that same game, I'm not done. Do you know what? I have more to get to on this game. Returning to the scene of the crime. The most important piece of this whole thing is the improvement on the offensive line, and I'm going to destroy Iowa State with facts and logic. Next.
Give me your impressions so far of Rocco Beck. What are you seeing from him? It's so crazy. I finally put something together. It's hilarious. About Anthony Beck, who I actually covered when he was in the NFL. So this is crazy. But give me your thoughts on Rocco and what you've been seeing from him.
Well, he's a quarterback that I think has played pretty efficiently. There have been a few key moments here and there. He's had a couple of pick sixes this season. One of them came in that Kansas game. Iowa State lost by 7. Total yardage wise, it was pretty close in that one, but a couple key mistakes in the 3 phases for the Cyclones in that one, and the pick 6 loomed pretty large. Iowa State fell behind 14-0 after that pick 6. But other than that, I think that for the situation that he was put in, he came out of spring ball thinking he was going to be the backup quarterback again this season. And you guys probably have heard of like the gambling stuff that was going on and some of the suspensions with that. Hunter Deckers was the starter last season and came out of the spring. Everybody thought he was going to be number 1 again, and he was caught up in that. And we're not going to see him this season in the Cardinal and Gold. So in training camp, Rocco Beck all of a sudden is a redshirt freshman. He played a few times in 2022, but here he is thrust into this starting quarterback role as a redshirt freshman, and I think he's handled it pretty well. And the offensive line, we've seen that kind of come together. It's another young group under a first-year position coach in Ames, and they've been able to run the ball, especially against BYU, over 200 yards, one of their season best performances on the ground there, and that's certainly helped, I think, Rocco not put too much on his shoulders, maybe like there was earlier in this season when the Cyclones struggled to run the ball.
Oh, a man who makes his living covering a team with a mascot of a tornado. They're on there with Anwar Richardson. Of course, we're having a lot of fun here on Football with Friends. Certainly. So happy to be here with all you guys, man. So happy to see everybody in the chat, and thanks to everybody for being here. If you could, please like the show, subscribe to the show. We would appreciate, or subscribe to the channel. Really, whenever you do that, you should get notifications when the shows come up in your feed, and you should certainly like it because it's free. It's free to like the show. It's free to like the show. Hunter Deckers, I'd forgotten about that whole thing. So he got busted for gambling. Man, I wonder if his what was he. Oh, do you know what it was? It was that thing with the undercover video stuff, right? With those girls in the bar, wasn't it? He was talking to him, like talking about making bets on his phone. I kind of remember it now.
Yeah.
I
think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're onto it.
People were talking, like I was asking some Iowa State, because I go to at the combine, and you guys will hopefully, if we're still doing the show, if you guys keep tuning in during the off season, when I'm at the combine, I'm sure Cody will be there with me. And one of the things that we like to do is to go ask the prospects that were in the Big 12, like, hey, who was the player that was like the biggest problem for you and stuff like that, or who, just to kind of get, just gab with these guys, get a little bit of intel about it. And the other thing that we like to ask is what who's the player on your team that like no one's talking about, or that you think is going to be a super stud next year and stuff like that. And all the Iowa State guys last year said, oh God, Hunter Deckers. I think this team could have been a different team without that guy. But as it is, it's a team that Texas should go in there and whoop at the scene of the crime. All right, because all this guy's talking about they ran for over 200 yards against BYU. It's a bunch of young. It's a clown car. It's a cavalcade. Look, whenever we go back to 2021 and we look at the offensive line. And just let me get 2023 pulled up just so we can give a little bit of context here as far as the snaps per disruption allowed. So in this game, this beautiful game with this great offensive line that Kyle Flood had his hands on for all of, 7 weeks by then? Whatever it was. in this game. So here's your starting lineup if you don't remember. At left tackle, the old bad version of Christian Jones. He didn't even play all the snaps. He was so bad in this game that Andre Carrick had to. These things don't happen. These players aren't so bad on the Texas offensive line right now where you got to send in an Andre Carrick in the middle of the game just because you're like, oh, gosh, he's like, you know, it's like there were 64 offensive plays in this game, and Christian Jones played like 45 of them. And there was all kinds of series when Carrick had to come in and play left tackle. And Carrick wasn't even any better, okay? Christian Jones in that game allowed two quarterback pressures and one quarterback hit. So he allowed disruption once every 15.7 snaps in that game at left tackle. Okay. Christian Jones this year is allowing disruption or committing a penalty once every 39.93 snaps. Texas's left tackle, though, if we're just looking at this formationally, is Kelvin Banks, who's allowing disruption once every 45 snaps. So at the left tackle spot, you got 15 snaps per disruption allowed versus 45 snaps this year per disruption allowed. Different left tackle. 3 times better at left tackle. All right, let's move to left guard, which was Junior Angelau.
Junior Angelau.
Who allowed 1 TFL, 1 sack, 1 pressure, and committed 1 false start. Okay, let's compare him. And so that's 16.25 snaps per disruption allowed. Let's compare him to the weakest link on the whole Texas offensive line, Hayden Connor, who's played 674 snaps this season and has allowed disruption once every 23.24 snaps. He was a whole third better, a whole 1/3 better than Junior Angelau was. So we got 3 times better, 1/3 better so far on the left side of the line. Okay? The center, of course, you know who it is. Jake Majors. In this game, he allowed 2 pressures and 1 run stuff, which is 21.33 snaps per disruption allowed. On the season, this season, after having a couple of rough games, Jake Majors is now down to 32.49 snaps per disruption allowed. But if you look at the snaps per disruption allowed per week, Jake Majors has been up in the 40s all the way up until the U of H game where he started to have a little bit of a slide. Okay? But we're still looking at a guy right now in aggregate sitting at 32.49 snaps per disruption allowed versus 21.33 at the center. Okay? At the right guard, this is the big one. Oh, he was so good. Tope Amadi at the right guard played all 64 snaps in this game. He allowed 1 TFL and 2 run stuffs, which would have been 21.33 snaps per disruption allowed. The right guard for Texas right now is DJ Campbell, who's allowing disruption and or committing a penalty once every 36.79 snaps. 21.33 versus a guy who's been doing it over the course of a season for 36.79. And at right tackle, the best one of the whole group, the best of all, Derek Kerstetter. He allowed 1 run stuff and 1 sack in this game. So obviously 64 snaps, that's 32 snaps per disruption allowed. Okay. So basically where Derek Kerstetter would sit right now as being by far the best of that group. He would right now over what Texas in that single game, what he was able to do in that single game is as good as what Texas' second least efficient offensive lineman on the course of an entire season has done. That's Jake Majors. And on the season, he's sitting at 32.49. It's better than 32, but compared to Christian Jones this year, 32 versus 39.33. It's still better. So not only is it a completely different offensive line, not only is it a completely different Texas defense, especially the front and the linebackers. The Iowa State side is completely depleted, and they're nothing near what they were. Quinn Ewers is not Hudson Card. JT Sanders is not Cade Brewer.
We've proven over and over again, Alex, how bad that team was. And the funny thing is, they led that game at halftime. Did you notice that? They were up 7-3 at the half.
They were.
It lost 30-7.
That was one of those games where you just wonder how did it happen? Dude, honestly, how could Texas have even been at a point where they were in 2021? I mean, that was 2 seasons ago. How can it be with this that Kelvonte Dixon was getting all the action. Look at Junior Angelo.
Well, multiple people in the chat were asking, so I pulled it up. Here are his participation statistics this year. I see 2 games: Portland State and Hawaii.
Look at Junior though, man. He's got a great smile to him. You know, man. But you know who has the best smile? You know who has the best smile?
Oh, I know.
Val Garcia. Yeah, Val Garcia. Look at him. Oh my gosh. Valen Realty is where you need to go if you're in the DFW area and you're looking to buy or sell a home, because if you work in education or you work in the ministries, Val's going to sell your house for free. For free. He's just going to do it for free. Hey, have you heard? Val Garcia gave like $65,000 back last year to his clients who he was able to just say, you know what, keep it. I don't need this money. You work in education, you work in the ministries, you are my people. I'm going to give this money back to you. But listen, if you tell him that you heard about him on Football with Friends, where he is actually a viewer, a listener, he's a big fan of the show. He's one of us, right? One of us. If you tell him that you're part of the crew, that you're part of the Football with Friends crew, he'll sell your house for 1.5%. If you're in DFW, he'll sell your house for half price. We're talking saving you tens of thousands of dollars. And he's one of the best there is. There's a QR code there you can scan to get a hold of Val. You can also call him at 469-647-8729. You can find him at valenrealty.com. You can email him, valgarcia@valenrealty.com. He always has his phone on him because he knows that he has such important clients to deal with. He's a heck of a guy. He's an awesome guy to hang with, an awesome guy to know, and he's going to take care of you. He has 14 people that work there in his firm that can help you in all parts of your transaction, whether it's getting your house set up for sale, whether it's getting it staged, whether it's doing the make readies or helping you with the resources for that, whether it's the open houses and getting all that, setting up all those signs. You need help with this stuff. Val Garcia is the guy to help you all over the DFW area. So please call our guy Val Garcia. And if you know somebody in DFW, this is the most important thing that Val always says. A lot of you viewers aren't in DFW, but everybody knows somebody in DFW. If you could do one great thing for the show, you could just let somebody in DFW know, hey, man, if you're thinking about selling a home, buying a home or something like that, you've got to call Val Garcia, valenrealty.com. All right. That's Val Garcia. It's one of my favorite parts of the show. Junior Angelo, what's he done this year? You're on mute.
8 snaps in one game, 3 snaps in another game.
Well, you can't hate him because it's not like it was. It wasn't like it was. I mean, he kind of got told he needed to leave, which is kind of odd. I mean, do you think right now that he would be starting over Hayden Connor?
He played 735 snaps in 21.
What? Let me see. I don't know. I mean, I can tell you what I had him at.
65, 39.
I had him at 2021. I had him at that's 2022. Sorry. 2021. I had him at. I'm just keep saying I had him at so I can find him.
Stalling.
I had him at stalling. What do they have him at?
735.
Because of the bowl game too.
Wait, right. Yeah, 13 games. Yeah.
Did they go to a bowl? I've missed 6.
No, not in 21. No, they didn't.
I've missed 6. Oh, because you know what it was? Because he was on field goal. He was on field goal.
Yeah, I'm seeing 35 field goal snaps.
I have 699 snaps for Junior Angelo.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe I'm one snap off. Sue me.
Either way, hate to see that not doing a whole lot this year.
Nope, he's not. Sark was doing some stuff today, so we were supposed to. I guess that was going to be the main part of the show. God, Blake, we also have to break down this is the best Thursday night game of the year, right?
I would think so. I haven't looked at the rest of the schedule, but I would think so. Yeah.
It's just going to be awesome, man. You got Cincy and – are they both coming off loss? So, yeah. So, Baltimore coming off that ridiculous loss versus Cleveland. And Cincy, they lost to Stroud last week?
Yeah. 30,
was that last week?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, this is going to be a good game. I was listening to Michael Lombardi earlier, and he was saying that the trends in this stuff is like in the AFC North, the trend has just been in division games, just pick the underdog It's been hitting like 68% of the time. And then do you know that the one that's hitting is hit for like 11 straight games against the spread is the or not, I guess not against the spread, but unders just in NFL night games have hit for the last 11. If you were just betting blind, yeah. If you were just betting them blindly, you could like you say, like you could just bet those blindly and be living on an island right about now.
I would feel pretty good with Bengals plus 3.5.
Oscar Elizondo saying, Alex, Lamar will pop off tonight. He's my QB. I need him to have a good one. He's a QB in one of my important leagues too, and I'm going to need that. Oscar Elizondo. Oh gosh, I think Jareth Mulholland, Lamar turnover Jackson struck again. All right. Well, hey, no fighting in the chat. No fighting in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, Blake Mace's take the over.
Hey, but now that I've said this, it's probably gonna be 84-96 or something.
And now that we've said take the over, it's probably gonna go under again.
Yeah. No, and it's we're back to where we started. Hey, speaking of overs and unders, before I get into what Sark said, let's go to the Cockamamie PFF Green Line and see because did you write down what the ticket count was last time? Do you still have that around?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so now it's sitting at.
Well, hold on. Previously, last time we looked, it was 67% bets for Iowa State, 66% money on Texas.
Hold on, wait. Is this game at 8 p.m. Central or 8 p.m. Eastern?
Eastern, 7 p.m. Central.
Is Iowa Eastern time zone? I've always considered them kind of.
No, I think they're Central. Are they? I think they're Central.
Indianapolis is Eastern. But is Iowa West?
Yeah, that's not that close to Indianapolis, though.
Iowa's further central than Indiana, I think. Huh.
It's Central, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because Chicago is Central, right? Yeah, Chicago is Central.
Chicago's Central.
Yeah.
What, do you got a map pulled up or something? Okay, so here's the. Oh, I'm just curious. So it's a 7 p.m. game. It just says here on PFF 8 p.m., but they're just cockamamie East Coast elitists, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is.
Okay, so right now it's still ISU plus 7.5. The cash is, oh gosh. So I think this changed. Tickets are 56% on ISU. Cash is 65% on ISU.
56 tickets. How much cash?
65%.
Wow.
God, that's changed because I remember that it was earlier in the week, wasn't it? Like
the money was on Texas. That's what I said earlier.
Was on Texas.
Texas, yeah.
A little bit of a shift there, man. I don't. Like I said, I'm not worried about it. Like I'm done worrying about guys like Ohio State. And you know what? Next week I'm going to come in here. I'm going to be like, well, Tech is like, golly, they on a short week they worry. And McGuire's a good coach, and you never know. And just like I'm tired of this, dude. Texas is good. They've shown us that they're good. And I think the extra angst that we've noticed this week has just, or that I've noticed in myself this week, has to do with the fact, man, that there's just a lot riding on this game. And the 2021 stuff. That's why I had to exercise the demon. I had to go back to the scene of the crime.
I got one more stat from that game, Alex, that we need to talk about for a sec. Cameron Dicker, the Texas punter in this game, punted 11 times for 483 yards.
It's 11 Dicker the punter.
Dicker the punter, 11 punts, 483. That's a lot. 59 long.
Well, no. Whenever I talked to Dicker at the, forgot whether it was at the Senior Bowl or whether it was just somewhere out here around Lake Travis or where I saw him. Dude, it could have been up at the brewery. I was talking to him, and he said that it was during a time where, because Dicker's kind of bumped around. He's been sort of a free agent at times and stuff, and he's
kind of settled with the Chargers now, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, he's their guy. They would be crazy. They would be crazy to get rid of him. But there were teams that were saying that they wanted to be their punter. Like he wouldn't try it out as punters for some of these things. That's a real awesome extra thing that he brings. He's actually a good punter, to where if one of these things your punter gets hurt, or, you need somebody to do that. He can definitely step in and help. All right, so that's how it looks as far as the betting trends. I'm not particularly worried about any of that stuff. As far as what Sark said today at the press conference, Kirk Bowles asked about the bulletin board material, just how much that really means, right? He says that, you view it in a sense that, he said some stuff like that gets said publicly, but our players hear things indirectly. And, what they try and teach him is they can't put too much into that. He says that he basically kind of said what I've been saying. It's like, if there was a team that might need the extra motivation, technically it probably would be Texas, since Texas is the favorite and all the rest of it. But Sark's like, they don't. It's kind of cockamamie. They don't need extra motivation. We got to focus on what we're doing. Like, we got everything in front of us. Why do you care about what some dude kind of acting a little bit like a punk man up there sort of says, right? Like, what's that? It's like, that's sort of, Sark didn't say that, but the way I took it is like, that's sort of allowing him into your headspace where he doesn't deserve to be there. He's like, he's an offensive lineman for Iowa State. Are you kidding? It's like kind of like the whole thing, like Tomlin, when he said, they asked him about last week about George Pickens, how George Pickens was saying he wasn't getting targeted enough and all this stuff like that. And he was, acting like a little bit of a diva about it. And they like asked Mike Tomlin about it. He's like, what do you want me to say, man? It's a pebble in my shoe. It's like that's how you got to treat these things. Like, that's what do you want me to say, man? It's a pebble in my shoe. So Quinn, he was asked a pointed question by, I believe, Chip Brown, just saying, where Quinn, obviously, he said last week he was somewhat limited. Where is he this week as far as him being limited? Is he, like, where is Quinn? What have you thought about him this week? And he didn't go into any detail at all. He wouldn't talk about him at all. He just says, he said, I feel good about where he's at. He's going to play a good football game for us, is all he said. He just kind of shut it down right there. Somebody asked about the running back room, how things have sort of come to pass now that, unfortunately it's been a bad deal with Jay Brooks and everything, and sort of where that is. And he gave the answer you'd expect. He just said that they don't like seeing him go down, and there's a sense of hurt for him, but also like there's a big sense of opportunity. He said these guys, of course, they all work really hard too, and he said we're fortunate. This was what I thought was interesting, and this is Sark going back to his priors. Like, this is Sark saying, he's saying, I get to kind of go back to CJ Baxter. Like, he said we're fortunate because CJ Baxter was the starter when he started this year for us, right?
Right.
He's healthy now. He hasn't been healthy this season. He's healthy now, and that's big. He said that Keelan's played a lot, and that Jaden Blue is just chomping at the bit. So he said we'll go into the game and we'll navigate it accordingly. So I take two things away from that. One is that, okay, I think Keelan Robinson is going to be available to play. I'm comforted by the fact, as I've expressed here numerous times before, that Sark has just come out and said Keelan's a change of pace and a special teams guy. I think he learned his lesson in the bowl game. We all did. We all learned a lesson in that bowl game. He said, golly, we can't – golly. This thing can look real, real bad just with one bad personnel decision or one bad set of ideas with how a player could be used. But so I don't think Robinson will play much, but it's good that he's back. Here's the thing about Keelan. If it turns out to be a game, and I don't want it to be this kind of game, I don't think it will be. I'm tired of giving all the credit in the world to this team, this Iowa State team that hadn't played a quarterback worth a hill of beans besides the Oak State guy and besides Dylan Gabriel. They just haven't. I'm tired of giving them credit. But if this game did get close or something like that, a guy like Keelan Robinson's always there to kind of like, even if he's not blocking kicks, he does some stuff wherever, for one, he can. He's good. He's good at that. If there were going to be a guy I told you this week this is going to block a punt or block a kick, your money would be on Keelan Robinson to be the one to do it. And the thing is, also he kind of brings pressure from the side to where he gets close enough on these kicks to where I think he kind of gets in the kicker's head a little bit, right? Because he's always coming off that right side of the the right side of the offense and coming like that. And it feels like whenever these guys miss, man, they kind of miss left a little bit. You know what I mean? So like, because
trying to pull it away from them just a little bit.
So I mean, I like having Keelan Robinson back. I think it's important. But this is going to be CJ back. Most importantly, I think it's going to be CJ Baxter, where he's going to get the chance to just have a real featured role and just a giant opportunity for Jaden Blue compared to where he had been. I'm sorry, Blake. I didn't mean.
No, you're good. I was thinking about it earlier on the Prize Pick show when everyone was saying take the under on Baxter, and I agreed with you. 80, like I think he gets to 100. I think Baxter runs for 100 in this game.
Well, people just think that they just say that the defense. They say that the defense is good for Iowa State, and they are good. But I think it's the back end that's so much
better in the back end than the front
and it's
seven.
not. But here's the thing, Blake. They're not. But besides Tampa and Cooper, they're not that. They're good and they're sound and they're technical and they're fundamental, but they're not necessarily super athletic. You know, so it's like. Which I guess I'd rather probably go against a team that's uber athletic but just not technical at all and doesn't know what the heck they're doing, right? So I just to me it's Catch, as we saw on the Prize Pick show earlier, he's like, and he has his data and stuff, but he's of a different. I don't think he has his data. I don't think that the data he has matters. That was the crux of the argument that we got into today. I think it's just a faulty kind of set of data, but that's fine. It's like people have differences of opinions. For me, he worries more about the 3-3-5. I say, dude, it's the 3-3-5. Like, this is gonna be easy to run on, especially with that front just not being.
Well, it seems like the data we were looking at was depth of receptions, right? It was like, hey, what was the average completion yardage and all that? Like, it would make sense that the completions were all short yardage in these games going up against the 3-3-5 because that's the idea. They have all these back end guys to make you throw it short, not throw over the top. That's the whole point. So I don't know. We'll see. This Saturday, though, I mean, it's going to be an interesting test. For sure.
I think what this Saturday will be is just what if Iowa State has the skeleton key, not whether or not the most
It's not going to.
The most popular defense in America is the one that Sark can't handle. But anyway, what was it? Oh yeah, so yeah, with
CJ Baxter.
I think Baxter. They're going to load him up, man. They're going to give him his shot. And as much as people say, I know that the people have had comments and concerns and they've said like, hey, he dances around. He dances around too much back there. He doesn't hit the hole fast enough. He doesn't have the same vision as Brooks. I can see this stuff about the vision, right? I can see this stuff. He doesn't have the natural vision of a Jay Brooks. But Sark said he's been happy with what he's seen of him in pass pro. He said he's made the transition to the college level as far as that's concerned. For that reason, they don't need to take him. He has good hands. I know Sark doesn't need to take him.
He's a true freshman.
You can see it in practice. He has great hands. He looks like a wide receiver. So he's not going to have to come off the field on third downs at all. That's generally a big time issue with rookies and freshmen and stuff like that. It's because they have to come off the field in third down, and you have to put in a Keelan Robinson or somebody like that who's at least been there for a while and knows how to pick up the pass pro stuff. So I think it'll be a big game for CJ Baxter. I think it'll be just a ultimate kind of like, let's open up the present and just see what we have here in Jaden Blue type of game, right? It could be something that fires big. It could be something that fires big. If any of what we've seen in some of these other games in small spurts is able to translate. We got more of Sark. We got Prize Picks. Let's put together a winner tonight. Let's make Jay Ward. Jay Ward, you paid off a mortgage last night. If you listen to Keenan Womack, just listen to Keenan, listen to Cody. Don't listen to me, okay? We're gonna get all that stuff going. We're gonna get everything settled next.
I think this is the other thing too for Quinn is, and it's going to be interesting. It's not something, it just came out a couple days ago, but I'll be very curious how the bowl games, not the bowl games, the All-Star games, how they look at Quinn. Will they give him an opportunity to come to the Senior Bowl? Will he get an opportunity to go to the East-West Shrine game? Will he take that? Will he want that? Because to me, that can be kind of the final stamp, the final nail in the coffin to say, yeah, this guy's ready. When the NFL decision makers, and I'm not saying scouts aren't, but when the decision makers, the director of college scouting, the GMs can sit down with these guys and look them in the eye and say, okay, let's talk for 15 minutes. Let me get a feel for you before we go to the combine. Let me watch you in practice all week, with this high, this mixed all-star group, high-level talent sort of thing. That could be something that really helps Quinn as well and helps some of the underclassmen. The thing is, there's so many quarterbacks in this class. It's going to be tough to pick which ones will go to the Senior Bowl, which ones go to the East-West Shrine game. And maybe Quinn doesn't need to do that. Maybe he finishes up these next few games and just rocks it, beats Oklahoma or Kansas or whomever in the Big 12 championship game, and then gets into the playoffs somehow and then rocks it then. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, maybe he doesn't need that. Maybe he doesn't need, because he's shown it all, maybe he doesn't need to go do it for another week. Maybe his status and his stock is rising that fast through that whole process. And look, we saw what happened with CJ. There are a lot of people that were down on CJ. And then he has that game against Georgia, and it was like, oh, no. I love that guy now. Well, yeah, you love him now. But what did you think about him, months ago? You weren't saying that months ago. You suckers had him going number 11 in your mock draft in November. So if Quinn does all that and really hits a hot streak, maybe he doesn't need that all-star game or that opportunity. And I'd be curious if he'd want it. But now it's actually available to guys. And I think that's going to be really interesting for those all-star games. And I'll be interested if that's the rule, whether next year, which doesn't help Quinn, but is going to help some players at Texas, A&M, et cetera. If they add another all-star game back, they had taken one away because, and I don't know why, maybe just funding, whatever it might be. But if you have underclassmen that can play in these all-star games, you might be able to fund another all-star game to give these guys an opportunity to showcase to do it again. So I'll be curious if that's something that's afforded to Quinn. And if I were him, I would take them up on it all day, every day, because you get that opportunity to be around. I mean, just the time you get with the decision makers is very, very helpful. And how many times have you read an article after a guy gets drafted? Oh yeah, well, we sat down at the Senior Bowl. We talked about this. So we sat down at the college, did this. Well, if you get that opportunity to do it in Mobile, then you can do it in Indianapolis. Then you get a 30 visit, and then you get a private visit after that. I mean, that's enough time for Quinn Ewers to say, look, it doesn't matter whether I'm 6'1", 200 or 6'8", 350. I can throw the rock. You can trust me. I can be the face of your franchise. And that's what Quinn Ewers is going to need. So, yeah, I think these 3 games, Chad, are going to be pretty important. But I think there's so much in addition to it to just add to his novel. And the longer that he makes his novel, I think the better for him, because I think the end of the novel is going to tell a different story than what the beginning of the novel told.
Oh, yes. It's not the end of the novel here yet on Football with Friends. Oh gosh, we're having some fun today. So happy to be with everybody here in the chat. I do have some very disturbing news though, Blake.
Oh no.
But we've had basically over 100 people here in the chat for the whole day.
Uh-huh.
There's only 50 likes on the show.
God. Dang it.
It's free. You can like the show and it's free.
Come on, guys.
That's one thing you can never go cheap on is just liking because
Liking
you can't
the
go
video.
cheap on it because it's free. There's no way to go cheap. Listen,
We might just have to make the theme tomorrow, Alex, like the video. That might just
Like
have to
the
be what
video.
it is.
like the video. That should always be the theme. What about we haven't given enough love to the late Travis water meter lately? Has that thing been rising or falling lately?
It's been holding pretty steady, Alex. But it's better than it was for sure.
I think it came up. I think it came up at one point like 5-6 feet or something like that. If it's holding steady,
Well, it was over 50 feet low, and now we're sitting at 48.7 low, creeping back up. It's good. It's more rain, but
that's how your kids feel about Halloween. Rodolfo's never going to let me live this down about my kids and the Halloween candy. I swear to God, man.
we did not put enough effort into talking about the Squid Game this past Halloween. We talked about it, but
Yeah, that's what happens to the squid. Do you know what's funny? My kids don't even want to play the squid. They don't even care about the candy. They've got to eat a few pieces.
oh, you burned it into them now.
They just forgot. They've forgotten.
You've indoctrinated them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good to see all you guys in the chat. Carl Tusing, howdy. Yeah, it's great to see you, my friend. Oh my gosh, we got my guy Harif in the chat. So good to see you, working man. Couple late additions here, man. Thanks so much for coming in. If you missed the earlier part of the show, we definitely went through and detailed the return to the scene of the crime and why Texas is so much different this year, and why it's time to quit thinking about squeaking by this ISU team and start thinking about ways to really, really, really put their backs in the dirt and just rub it into them. So, yeah, we're excited about that. We got a big show coming up tomorrow. Friday will be final takes with Cody. Cody. I'm sure Cody hasn't told me he can't come, so I'm sure Cody will be here, and we'll have final takes. We'll hopefully get a big win there again this week to be able to take it down again. And as far as this game this weekend, so Coach Sark was one thing he was asked. Leah Vance says, "Can you compare and contrast the two running backs?" And Sark's like, "Well, which two?" So that if he would have just gone into saying, well, CJ's like this and Blue's like this, I'd have been like, oh gosh, it's just on for these two, right?
That was kind of a little trap.
But I think it is on for both those guys. It just is. We're not going to see a bunch of Savion Red this weekend. We're not going to we're going to see 20. We're going to see 23 and we're going to see 4. Probably in the reverse order. We're going to see 4. We're going to see 23 coming in for him.
If you're going to get Keelan and Savion in the game, it needs to be in some actual creative packages, multiple back sets, different things, jet sweeps, whatever, something off the wall, not just running at left guard with Savion Red.
Well, and Sark says with these guys, we don't have to, it's like clearly, he hates losing Jay Brooks. He hates hates it. We all do. But the what he said, I'll just look at my notes. So he said that, so this is what he just said. At Texas, we recruit a certain type of player. It's like he always says with the quarterbacks. It's like we recruit players that are good for our system. It's like we recruit running backs that are good for our system. We don't recruit one-dimensional guys. And, CJ is, he just said that he said CJ's a more bigger physical runner. There's differences in how they are, right? He said CJ's the more physical, bigger runner as far as his stature. He said Blue is more shifty with real explosiveness, and he admitted that Blue's faster. he just said it. He says he's got better long speed, he's got better top speed. Like, that's just true. But he says we don't recruit one-dimensional players. He said then CJ can create explosive plays. We saw that. We the 50-yard touchdown the other day. Now that thing was Moses parting the Red Sea, and then that was a great play call. But you remember, I forgot even who it was against. The little flip out to him when it looked like it was going to be a quarterback sneak or something. Mm-hmm. But he said both have excellent hands. He says that what they look for is guys who can run between the tackles, who can run to the perimeter, who have natural hands, and who have a high enough football IQ to where they can excel in pass pro. He said both those guys have those traits, but they just kind of go about it like they both have the traits to get to those things that they need, right? But the traits that they might have are just a little different, right? They're different, but both guys can do the whole job. So somebody asked about Iowa. Danny Davis just said, "What does Iowa State do best?" And it was interesting, man. I love it. I love it when people talk about the football. We love it. We're here just talking about the football and what the actual football means to the game of football, and how no one ever thinks about it like this. I'm all constantly having to tell my son, I'm like, this whole game, like, I'm like, do you see that ball that you're holding on to? I'm like, that whole game's about that ball. It's not about you. It's not about we get so busy, especially me. I'm a fantasy football analyst and I'm a personnel guy, and for college and stuff. And I do all this stuff where I watch the Longhorns. I talk about the team. I talk about the personnel. I talk about how they fit. But in the end, the game's just about whether this football, whether it crosses over this line, where it is, who's in control of it. That's what the game is like. It's about the football. And he just says that for Iowa State, it's kind of cool. Like, for me, it's just kind of cool to hear him say, he's just like with Iowa State, he's like, what do they do best? He's like, we'll just look at the ball. They're like, what? He's like, well, they take care of the ball. They create turnovers. The ball is the number one stat. It means wins and losses in football games. It's just the ball. And look at the ball with them. He says also they're scoring when they get into the red area. He just says he just really respects Matt Campbell and their staff. They're their coaching, how they coach. He says that they know who they are. They cater their team to who they are. And that's just a nod to him, to the fact that they've kind of had to do some interesting and different things to make themselves good and make themselves relevant and make themselves into a team that at times during his career there has been formidable. And I know last year things went haywire with Campbell. And I know this year it started out with things going haywire with Campbell. And I'm done. I'm giving respect to Campbell, not because I'm particularly worried about the way Texas matches up in this game, or doom and gloom about it, or Chicken Little. I'm not. I'm to the point where Texas needs to go. Like I said, it's a pee on the rug game. Go into their house and pee on the rug. You have better athletes. You have better talent. Everybody talks about what a great coach Sark is, what a great play caller he is, the motions, the looks, everything. Like, you got all the athletes in the world. You should go in there and dominate this game. They haven't played anybody and won. So he just says that I feel the same way about Campbell as he does. I mean, for some reason, I really like the guy, and there were the rumblings he could be on the hot seat and stuff like that. I always thought that was so crazy. He's a good coach. I mean, I don't know, Blake, if you feel. I mean, I
think he's a good coach. I think he can get a little off the rails sometimes. Like, I think people get in his head pretty easy. I've seen him get hot on the sideline a bunch of times, and what he did to that fan at the beginning of the season who called him out. But yeah, overall, I mean, you got to keep the full picture of what the Iowa State football program is, and what he's done there has been super impressive.
They asked him about sort of being in a new situation here where he's now in the hunt, right, for a Big 12 title, like the team is, and like it's nothing that they've been on. He kind of said, well, like I've been on some exciting championship runs. He's like, my coaches have too, He's like, and they're players that have been part of that have been helpful. He said that AD, and here's my thing. We get on each other all the time for calling him for not calling him Adonai and actually calling him AD and stuff like that. All Coach Sark calls him is AD. He doesn't call him Adonai. He doesn't. But
that's interesting.
Regardless, but anyway, he just said that AD's been really good this week with talking to the guys. He said he'd been to Georgia twice, like all this stuff. He said, I think our players are more excited than anything because he just said it's refreshing that they're at this spot because and this isn't exactly what he said, but he's like, now the vision that we've laid out for these players as we've gone through the recruiting and gone through the season and gone through all this hard work and stuff. And he says all week these guys they work hard, man. Like they go to school and they come to practice and all this, like they're in their rehab room and they gotta go to their position meetings and all this stuff and be up super early. And it's like it's not easy. And you go through the week, and whenever the goal that had been sort of set forth for you, it doesn't even align any more with what your true situation is. He just says it's refreshing now. It's like, we teach, this is where we're supposed to be, and now we're there, right? It's just like it gives a whole different vibe to everything. And so he says that there's not a sense of anxiety because of that. It's more of a sense of confidence. But he did say that it doesn't mean that we're letting, he just said this week I've coached. He said this week I've coached them harder this week than I have in a really long time because I know that it's needed, and I know that they're going to give us their best shot. I need to make sure that we're giving them our best shot. Man, I got to coach these guys hard this week. So apparently he coached them super hard this week. There was and then finally the thing that Anwar asked him about that we sort of talked about yesterday on the show that he said he was going to ask him about the sideline communication
headsets.
Yeah. Why is that not even like? I'm so disappointed in myself that I've not made that like my personal tirade for years. Like, it makes all the sense in the world. For some reason, Blake, I feel embarrassed to say, like, I've never really kind of thought about it. I've just kind of gone about my life and thought college football, this is just how they do it. These stupid signs they hold up with, like, one's like a Papa John's thing.
I've always just thought the signs were cockamamie. I never really understood. Once I learned that the NFL did it with headsets, I was like, well, why doesn't college? It's just the way it's always been. So.
I'm disappointed in myself for never being
able to move on
from
it immediately.
So Almore asked him about it. He said, "Do you think they should have headsets and there should be sideline communication to him?" And he goes, "Thank you." He's just like, "Thank you." He's like, "Yes, please." He goes, "Everyone, every one of you, go write an article about it, please." He said, I spent half my week working on signals and signs and coaching the game of football. Isn't that crazy? He's got to think about this stuff that much.
And you start to wonder, like,
Coach, what do we do? What does Papa John's mean this week? Coach, what does the Arizona Cardinals sign mean this week? What does it mean whenever this guy's doing this, but then there's another guy going like this, and it's like it's all he's like it could all be just done with. They don't have to do with it. He said there's no shortage of money in college football. And the talk is that there could be a competitive disadvantage because some schools can't afford it. Here's the thing. That's not true. These things aren't that expensive. I was looking at the thing, like the Player X thing that they make for the sideline comms. They say you can add on the helmet and the sideline to sideline stuff for like $1,900. LSU has air conditioners in their helmets. Cold. Yes, that's a good point, man. That's a good point. He said anytime when I turn on TV late at night when I get home and stuff, and all they're talking about is college football is sign stealing. And he's like, our sport's too good to have this be he's like, our sport's too good for that to be on the forefront. There are too many great stories, too many great players, too many great teams for us not to be talking about those things. He's like, of course I don't agree with the sign stealing thing. And we have to talk about it because it's a thing and it's out there and it's happening, but he's like, it could all be gone. It could be gone like that. Blake, I would
love to see it gone. I would love to see it.
I'm going to make a prediction right now. This changes next season.
I agree. 100%.
Next season, you know how it is, man. You know what they say? What it's like deadlines make deals and stuff like that. Crises make things that should have happened a long time ago just happen. You know what I mean? That's like
it's an exact replica of what happened in baseball after the Astros scandal. They go, how do we fix this? How do we just not allow them to do this? Oh, well, we'll just let them communicate without any signs.
Derek, what is it? Derek Venata asking my score prediction for this game. Earlier on the prediction show, I said 27-17. I might change that to like 34-17 or something. I'm to the point where This Texas team is just so much different. We've gone over it today. We spent basically an hour talking about the advanced numbers, about exactly why. But as if your eyeballs couldn't tell you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's a different team. All right. Speaking of different teams, we got a big NFL game tonight. Let's just look and see kind of what some of the numbers here say. Let's look premium downloads at Roster Watch. I'll tell you guys what I have here up behind the paywall as far as the betting trends. So looks like everyone's on the Bengals. So everybody's on the AFC North underdogs. It looks like 66% of the tickets, 65% of the money. But then the other trend is Lamar as a favorite at home has been just a killer against the spread trend too. Mm-hmm. But the Cleveland defense, let's look at the matchup tool here. We have a 46
Cincy defense.
Sorry, the Cincy defense. I'm still thinking of last week how I got screwed on. How did that thing start out? That game started out with a pick six, and just Baltimore was up like 20 points or something like that, and Cleveland comes back and wins it. It's just the ultimate swindle. Let's see. Where's the matchup tool? Where's the matchup tool?
Speaking of, I'm going to have to make a decision whether to start the Cleveland defense or the Texans defense this week against each other.
Oh,
it's quite the conundrum because they're both really good.
Why can you only choose between those two?
Those are just the two I have on roster. I mean, I can choose somebody else. But
Blake, you roster two defenses?
No, just at the moment. I had those two left over.
Don't do that. Don't roster two, especially not those two. That's bad.
They rack up a ton of points, dude.
Yeah, that's bad.
It actually won me
You just really need to stream, man. I need to give you some. I need to give you some general strat tips for playing in these leagues against your friends, man. You can run it up on them. If you,
I've won a lot of weeks in a row though. We're
all right, so Baltimore here, Cincy. This is the number 16 matchup of the week for opposing quarterbacks via my algorithm. The number 10 matchup for opposing running backs, 9 for receivers, 3 for tight end. Oh gosh. This is going to be, dude, Lamar, it's the number 3 matchup for opposing tight ends. Okay. Cincy, this is a brutal matchup across the board for them, but yet everyone's on them. So why not do the Costanza thing? Say this is going to be let's just see where Lamar is, and let's see where Mark Andrews is and all the rest of that stuff. Let's go to the prize picks section here. Share. Oh, there's my big winner from last night. I love me some Keenan Womack. I need to tell him thank you for that. Okay.
Y'all spent a while talking through all that, so I'm glad it paid off with a 4 out of 4.
Somebody on the prediction show said that they tailed on it, so that's good. All right. What is like the Gus Edwards and stuff for rush yards? Oh, Keaton Mitchell too. Gosh, he's been just a stud, but he just does not get any touches. Gus Edwards, 47.5 seems a little bit low. Joe Mixon, I don't want any part of him tonight. Gosh, Justice Hill's probably going to go for more than 10.5, isn't he? Let's see if there's anything I like better. I'm really interested in Andrews. Andrews is going to get this tonight in the number 3. That's my top one. So Andrews is going to get there. Zay Flowers. Gosh, he's going to get there too, man. That's not enough. So if I think both these guys are going to get here, I'm going to go with the pass yards for Lamar. Should I go with the pass yards, Blake, or the fantasy score where that's a high fantasy score.
21.5. Yeah.
Look, man, I'm going to say that Lamar can get it done here through the air, mainly to these two guys. Where's the receiving yards for Zay?
Well, given these picks so far, are you leaning Baltimore?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. They are going to be missing Ronnie Stanley tonight, but Cincinnati's going to be missing Sam Hubbard. Cincinnati going to be missing T. Higgins. Oh, so where's Jay Chase? Do they even where's Chase?
Search him, see.
Here we go. He's gonna. That's pretty tough though, right? 82.5. Oh man. What about like Trenton Irwin and those guys? So you got Tyler Boyd is probably going to go over, right? With no T. Higgins. Do I like Tyler Boyd had a monster game last week, 117. I mean, gosh, there's no T. Higgins. He's going to go higher than 47.5.
Yeah, I like that.
As long as I'm doing this, Bateman has been popping off a little bit lately. I can't stand this stuff with Beckham and Bateman and stuff. Oh, what about kickers? Justin Tucker. Kicker. Where is it? Fantasy score maybe for the kickers. Jay Tuck, where is he? 8.0. I'm not sure I like that. What about EMAC? E-Money. 7.5. He beats that all the time. Let's go with that. Let's say that if this is the case, there could be struggles in the red zone for these guys. They got to go to McPherson. I got to make this a 6-banger now, Blake, since I've gotten it to 5. I kind of think Mixon doesn't get to 14 fantasy points against a really good defense, right?
Yeah, 14. Yeah, 14 is quite a bit.
Let's go less on Mixon. See if we make a quick 5 honey. If I come on tomorrow and I'm 5 honey up, I'm going to feel like I'm running like the sun with some of these latest prize picks. All right, so that's what we do with that. Thanks so much to everybody in the chat for being here, man. We definitely love having all you guys, man. It wouldn't be a show without you. We're here every day, 3:30 to 5:30. It'll be a big show tomorrow. Cody Carpentier joins. We're gonna have the final takes. We've done all the work for the week, dude. We got the hay in the barn now, right? The hay's in the barn. We've come together. We've done football with friends. The hay's in the barn. It's time to get ready to go. It's time to get our
the Outsiders tonight, by the way. I believe Michael Griffin is going to join. So
Michael Griffin. My goodness, they've been trying
That's
to
the
get him on
plan.
for weeks. They've been trying to get him on for weeks.
Yeah, this is try number 3. They're hoping this is the one. So
All right, is he the Griffin brother that owns the? Wait, is it a Griffin
Cupcakes.
that owns the
Yeah.
Gigi's cupcakes?
Mhm.
God, my kids love those cupcakes.
oh yeah,
I think they
Stuff.
gotta put some kind of kid crack or something in there, man. I'm not sure what it is. They get addicted to them. All right, but yeah. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you could like the show, subscribe to the channel. If you have questions for me, you'd like to get a hold of me, Alex@rosterwatch.com. As always, for Blake, I'm Alex.